Understanding how to perform arithmetic in Python is useful, but understanding how to use variables can turn Python into more than just a calculator. In this video, we'll talk about a topic that is called variable and assignment operator. So let me open this file. So variable is one of the most important concepts in programming language. So variables, what is variable? Variables are like container that is used to store values. Storing values are important because we need to use it later in our code. So for example, I have 2. Now what I can do is I cannot reuse this 2 again. I mean, if I want to use 2 again, I need to write 2 again. I cannot use this again. But what we can do is we can use this again if we store it somewhere, and we need to store it in memory, all right? Because memory is the place where we store our data. But how we store the value in memory? Well, we can use a variable for this. So what I can do is I can store this 2 in variable, and variable will store it in our memory. Isn't it cool? So for example, I say num equals 3. By the way, space is not important over here, all right? You can also write it like this. I'm just using space for formatting purposes, so it looks good. So num equals 2. Now 2 is a value which is stored in a variable name called num, all right? So now it doesn't mean that num is equal to 2, all right? Don't mix it. It means that 2 is stored in num. So whatever is at the right side will be stored in whatever is at the left side. So then what I can do is I can just print 2 over here. Not 2 actually. I can print num because we have stored 2 in num. So whenever I say num, it means I'm saying 2. Saying num is equal to 2 because 2 is stored in a variable name called num. All right. It might be confusing, but what is really happening is that this value 2 is storing in a variable name called number. And this num, let me tell you this, it might make it a little bit complicated, but it is very important for you to understand. So just wrap your hand over it. So num is storing this value in memory. Now in memory, we will have this value 2, all right? But in memory, we have much data, all right? But how we can identify where 2 is located in our memory? For this, we need something called memory. Now, memory address is the address of this value. So now what we are really doing is we are giving the name to the address, okay? And the name to the address is num, okay? So whenever I print num, computer will go to the address in memory num. Because now address name is num, it will go to the memory and find out this address. Once it find out this address, it will just put the value out of it, which in this case is 2, and then print 2. All right. So we can now use this number wherever we want. All right. So now what I can do is I can just show it to you what happens. Okay, Python variables.py. Make sure you write variables.py, okay, not operators1.py. And as you can see, now it's 2. Okay. Now what I can do is I can store another number. Okay, it should be num1 is equal to 3, and I can say num plus num1. I can save this, and now it's 5. Okay. Now there are some rules for naming the variables. So the first rule is that variable name must always start with either underscore or any letter, A to Z or A to Z. All right. We cannot start variable name except of these. So for example, I want a variable. I can start a variable name like num2 with underscore. Okay. I can just say num2, but I cannot say exclamation num2. It will give me a error. So let's see what error we get. So as you can see, syntax error, it's invalid syntax because this is against the rule of naming the variable. Okay. And also we cannot start the variable name with any number, like I cannot say 1. Okay, Visual Studio Code is smart enough, it's telling me it's a problem. Okay, but we can test it, and as you can see, it's a syntax error. So invalid syntax error. Okay, and I can use underscore. However, I showed it this before as well. The second rule is that variable name is case sensitive. Okay, so num, let me make num3. So num stands for number, is equal to 7, 3 is equal to 7, and num3 is equal to 9. Now these two are two different variables. Okay, although the name is same, but the case is different. So num3, the first letter is uppercase. If I print these two numbers, for example, I print num, let's see what we get. Let me comment this to avoid confusion, and let's clear the screen as well. Oh, sorry. As you can see, we get the 9 because num3 is 9. Now if I say print num3, it should give me 7, and yes, it's giving me 7. So variable name is case sensitive. This is the second rule. The third rule is variable name must not contain space. Okay, I cannot create a variable name like number 4 space number 5. 5. It will give me error. It's giving me error, invalid syntax. Okay, so it's against the name rule of the variable name. Okay, you cannot do this. However, if you have a certain variable name that contains more than word, what you can do is you can use camel case. Now, not that it is not mandatory. If you use it, if you don't use it, it's up to you, but it is good practice. So for example, I have a variable name is greater than. So what I would do is I can write like this, so it's correct. And I can also write the same variable name in camel case. So camel case means first word, then second word begins with a capital letter, then third word begins with a capital letter, then fourth word begins with a capital letter. So except of first word, all other word will begin with a capital letter. So this is called camel case. It's not must, it's just a mandatory. Another rule that I have not written over here is that two variable name cannot be same. So it will give you error. For example, I cannot say num3 is equal to 7, num3 is equal to 9. It will not give me an error in Python. So it is not giving me an error. But in other programming languages like Java, JavaScript, C++, you will get error if you use the same variable. That's why I have not included this in rule. However, there is a problem if you do this. The problem is that num3 now would be 9, not 7. Okay, so let me print this to you. So if I say num3, now it will be 9, not 7. Okay, it's 9. See, it's 9. Because I have reassigned another value in number 3. So the first value in number 3 was 7, okay? But then what I have done is I have assigned another value in num3. So it just gets, reassigned, and that's why it's giving me another value.